Your brain doesn't care what thoughts you use. To be honest, your brain doesn't actually even know what you're saying. And I can prove that because if you were to translate your thoughts into a different language, like let's say you're gonna speak Russian to your brain, it'd be like, what the fuck is that? You would experience no emotional overwhelm or reaction to your thoughts in Spanish, Korean, whatever, unless you speak those languages. So what this means is that you have created associations through many times of thinking these thoughts that your brain has now memorized as like, oh, whenever like Sam thinks that, she feels this. Great. We're just going to do that automatically every time because the brain is super efficient, right? You don't wake up in the morning and your brain go, hey, what do you want to think today? It just thinks what it's been thinking for a really long time, whether or not those are creating positive or negative results in your life. And so if your thoughts don't mean anything, right, that means that you can focus on whatever the F you want that's going to put you into a higher vibration. So I don't try to think positive thoughts because a lot of, and I mean, I do, but if I try to think positive thoughts when I'm being negative, those positive thoughts actually create more resistance because then I start feeling shame about my negative thoughts. So instead, I'll just think really neutral thoughts, or I'll use a lot of affirmations like, what if I already had everything I wanted? What if I already had the ideal house, body, car, whatever? You know, it doesn't really matter that this isn't like your goal thought. It just matters that it produces a better feeling because your brain doesn't understand these words anyways. Your brain can only understand these words or their meanings based on the associations you've made over time. So once again, you haven't made those associations for those words in different languages. You've only made those associations for the words you speak in your native tongue. And so trying to change them is going to be really difficult because you have been strengthening this mental pattern for a really long time. Like even if you tell your brain, that's not what that means anymore, your brain's going to be like, yeah, it does. You've been thinking that for like 20, 30 years. So instead, you're just going to have to think something extremely neutral. Or obviously you can meditate because meditation is the action of taking no thought, right? It's the idea that you're going to go into a place of thoughtless existence. You're just going to observe them until they eventually float away and then you're just there in nothingness. It's pretty amazing, but we are not able to do that or access that so easily. Maybe you're in a moment where you just can't access a meditative state. And so instead of trying to think a positive thought, you're just going to think a really neutral thought. Could be something like, well, at least this won't matter in 5 years. You know, anything to reduce your resistance because your brain doesn't speak English. You don't get rid of negative thoughts. You just ignore them, okay? I want you to imagine that someone is constantly texting you and trying to hang out with you, figure out what your schedule is, and if you just ghost the shit out of them, they will stop texting. So, you know, thoughts are like those annoying people. If you just literally ignore them, they will go away. Now, the problem is that you keep engaging with them. As soon as you have a negative thought, you're like, ooh, where did that come from? Why am I thinking that? Oh my God, you keep reacting. And that'd be like someone texting you and you'd be like, oh my God, this is so annoying. They keep texting me, but then like texting them back. Engaging with it is just not gonna work. The only way that I have managed to stay positive so much of the time, and trust me, I get negative too, but as soon as I start to notice that flurry of negative thoughts, I just let that be. It would be like trying to control the weather. As soon as it gets cloudy and stormy and you are upset about that and believing it would be better if it were sunny, you just create a negative experience for yourself during that like climactic experience. But we, oh my God, one of my favorite quotes ever, which just resonates so much more deeply now that I'm an adult, which really is that it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And this is becoming more and more true to me throughout my life experience. So don't try to change your negative thoughts, just ignore them. It always sounds crazy before it happens. Your dreams are always going to seem totally wild and out there and impossible until they become reality. And everyone's going to think that you're crazy for believing in this and going after this thing because you don't have any evidence for it. But not you. You are a conscious creator, and you understand that your manifestations exist prior to them coming into physical form. They exist on a vibrational level. They exist as light forms, meaning that you experience them as thoughts and feelings and sensations, and that feeling of excitement of, as Abraham Hicks would say, being on the leading edge, like you're just on the edge of like something really big. And you're aware of that. And so you follow it, you trust it, you take action. You continue to move in the direction of your heart, and it feels expansive. You start questioning about, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that. When you start counting all the possibilities that are there for you, that's how you know you're starting to expand and get closer to your manifestation. But something that we have to stay consciously aware of throughout this process is that it's not gonna make sense to other people. And it's not your job to make it make sense to other people, because in their reality, people don't do things like what you're doing. And so your job is not to convince this person that your reality is right and theirs is wrong. Their reality is also right in their own way, but your reality is being shaped by you and your thoughts, not anyone else's. Contrary to popular belief, you don't need anyone to believe in you. You literally just need to believe in yourself. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's true. Okay, so if you're always hearing, you create your own reality, or multiple realities exist, and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Then I'm gonna explain it. Okay, so when you are a child, the way that you begin to make sense of the world is really through your relation to it. So you have an egocentric worldview, meaning that the world revolves around you. Whatever's going on in your reality is the one reality. So for example, when I was a kid, when it was raining in my city, I just thought it was raining around the entire world. And for the most part, as we age, we begin to leave this egocentric perspective and begin to understand that, oh, other people are having a different physical experience than I am, maybe even having a different emotional experience than I am. But that's the thing, your emotional experience is what is determining how you feel and perceive your physical experience. And so when you hear multiple realities exist, or you create your own reality, what they're suggesting is that you experience the reality that you're in based on the emotions and perspectives, past experiences, programming that you have that have culminated in this idea of what the world is. So you and I are living in this on the same earth, right? But we might have completely different realities, right? And you might argue that, no, this is one reality, like for everyone it's Tuesday. Is it? It's Wednesday in Asia, right? Like we can't even agree on time zones. Like it's, 10:30 a.m. right now for me, but for you, it's a completely different time. So like what reality is real? And the key is all of these realities coexist concurrently. I want you to imagine that you are at a silent disco right now and you have headphones on and everyone is just living their own best life in their head with their music, and there's a reality where someone's listening to like Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. Someone else is singing like a total heartbreak anthem, and someone else is just probably jamming to, I don't know, like a folk acoustic cover, right? So which reality is real? Because when I have my headphones on, that feels real, right? I'm walking around outside and I've got this like high vibe music on and I'm living the best life. But then that moment, right? When you take your headphones off and you're like, oh, like that was just me. That is reality, right? That's your reality. That is your experience of being in the world, and it differs person to person. And so when you can't believe that someone would do that, or can't believe that someone could achieve that, you're just saying that like, I don't think that I could achieve that or do that based on my current worldview, my current reality that I have shaped with my past experiences and beliefs and perspectives. For someone else, that might be very simple. Like, honestly, guys, like for me, 6 figures is like, that's no thing. But for you might have a really hard time wrapping your mind around that. Now, which reality is real? Is it actually easy to make 6 figures, or is it hard to make 6 figures? You know what I mean? Like, which one is real? Both. For me, it doesn't feel that hard based on my past experiences, what I have learned, my skill set, everything that I have come to understand about money and abundance. But for you, you might not be there yet. And so for you, it still feels hard. And what I want you to know is that both of these can be real. And so I'm not trying to say that your reality isn't real. It's totally real. It's literally your reality. But you also have to make room for my reality, for other people's reality, and understand that this is what actually leads to conflict, right? Especially in relationships, when you're trying to explain your reality. By the way, words in your reality might mean different things than they do in the other person's reality. So that's where you're going to constantly argue about, like, that's not what I meant. And then someone's going to say, but that's what you said. And you're going to be like, yeah, but those words don't mean what you think they mean. Do you see? And so I think what all of us really need is a lot of compassion for other people and why they are the way that they are, or more openness and expansiveness to be able to incorporate some of the realities that really challenge ours. So we are always creating and shaping our reality day by day. And when they say you can create your own reality, it really comes down to like, what are you choosing to think about, focus on, call in, and experience and make of your life? Because life is what you make of it, not what everyone else is saying. So if life is what you make it, if life really is a self-fulfilling prophecy, then what are you prophesizing? What reality are you creating? This really is yours alone to decide, and no one has to agree to it. No one has to adhere to it. Of course, as a collective, we do have some commonly agreed upon beliefs or concepts that construct all of our realities. But for the most part, we're all just kind of winging it and making up our own as we go. And so just like you can choose what song you want to listen to on your phone, you can also choose what thoughts you want to listen to, what emotions that you want to experience. And this creates your very own reality. Okay, listen. You do not need a lot of evidence for your manifestations. You could believe in your manifestations by like 5 or 10%, but if that 5 or 10% are super passionate and you actually can get behind that 5 to 10% of belief, it will manifest. The reason why it's not is because you keep making an extremely strong case for your limitations. So this is the thing. I want you to imagine that you have an inner lawyer and you have hired this lawyer to make a case for your potential. Now, most of you have really shitty lawyers. You have lawyers that you've paid retainer fees to who are literally making a case for all of your limitations instead. If your inner lawyer were an outer lawyer, a real person who was actually trying to get you out of jail, you would have fired them. And so what do we know about a really good lawyer? A really good lawyer can get someone who was literally guilty of committing crimes out of jail, right? A really good lawyer will find a tiny piece of evidence and run with it, make an entire fucking case to make sure that their client, you, gets out. And in this case, what are we trying to get out of? Our current life, which might not be reflecting back to us our fullest potential. And so we need an inner lawyer that's going to help build a case for our potential and get us to our greatest, best life. So what I'm saying is you don't need to believe in yourself fully, like by 100%. You just need to have one little piece of evidence, tiny, and just take it and run with it, focus on it until it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, until you have this case that you've made for your greatness instead of constantly looking for your smallness. Just like a lawyer who needs to win this case in order to feed his family, I want you to defend yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Okay, stop. If you are trying to improve yourself right now, you are trying to expand into the next level, best version of you and go after all of your dreams, this is what you have to know about that. Right when you start believing that you are actually worthy of your dreams, you start expanding your possibility thinking. You start thinking, oh my gosh, I could do this and I could do that. And you start to get really inspired. And then you actually take some action. And then you start to see some results. And then, full stop, your ego is going to come back. All of your fears, every single terrifying thing that you could ever think is going to happen is going to come back up and tell you that you're not good enough. You shouldn't be doing that. Someone else is already doing that. And you should just stop while you're ahead and not fall on your face. Down from this initial high of believing that it's possible is then going to put you into probably like a depressive spiral, which will then fuel more of those negative thoughts and then further stall your expansion. At some point, we might get another wind of inspiration again and then take action, and then the cycle will continue to oscillate back and forth. And so I want you to think about if you were in an abusive relationship with someone and every single time you would break up, you would get this sense of inspiration, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start, dating again and start really doing all these things that I love. But then you get scared and then you go back. You finally, really full stop, legit realize that you are fully worthy of a relationship that is better than this. You know that there are other people out there and lifestyles out there that are better than this. You decide to take a stand and leave. Now, what happens inside of the other person when you do that? They freak the fuck out. They're going to start screaming at you and telling you that you are never going to find anyone better than them. No one is ever going to love you like them, and that you are going to be unhappy and regret this. And that's really scary. And if you are not strongly in your own conviction enough about what you know is possible, then you might start thinking, they're right. I might not actually ever find someone who loves me more than this. And I totally might regret this. And we don't want to live with that pain of regret. That's such a terrifying, sinking feeling. And so we succumb. And a lot of people will stay. By the way, if anyone has stayed in a relationship, abusive or not, I respect that choice in a sense because that is the best choice that you made from the consciousness that you were at. But in order to really expand into the life that you want for yourself, the one that you know you deserve to live out, you'll come face to face with every single horrifying, deep fear you have ever dealt with. They'll literally go for the jugular. They're going to go for the ones that you are the most intensely afraid of. As you start to expand into your dream life, like I said, the one that you know that you deserve to move into, your fears are like that abuser. They're going to say, you shouldn't do that because if you did and then you failed, then this is going to happen and then that's going to happen and then you're going to be unhappy and then you're going to be embarrassed and then it's going to do all of that. And when it does, you're just going to have to be like, yeah, I hear you. I know. You're so scared that I'm gonna fail and that I'm gonna look stupid and that no one is gonna like me. And what you're really fucking afraid of is that no one is gonna love you anymore. That's what you're afraid of. You think it's that you're gonna fail and that people are gonna think you're stupid. Why would it even matter if someone did think you were stupid? Probably because if someone thinks you're stupid, that means they don't like you, which means you're not getting any love. And so you're afraid that if you do this thing, that somehow, some way, there is going to be no love at the end of it, meaning that people aren't going to like you anymore. People aren't going to support you in this. And so I want you to know that you're the only one not supporting yourself in this. Understand that once you vanquish that fear, once you actually decide, okay, I hear you, but I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to stay this small. I am going to move toward the direction of my dreams. I am going to actually embody these lives. I am going to manifest everything I fucking want. Learn to walk confidently away from that voice that is telling you that you are going to regret this. You are going to be a stupid fool. Once you learn to walk away from that voice with confidence, with conviction, with worthiness, that is when you begin to attract every single possible thing you could ever imagine.